5. It's our pleasure to welcome now the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, Mr. Mike Hurst. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks for coming in on this election day.
Good morning, Gerard. Thanks for having me.
It's important we get to the polls to vote today. We got 8 Senate elections, 2 House elections. We just talked to Secretary of State Michael Watson to thus far, everything going smooth. And we were delineating between the special elections due to 3 of those, 2 Senate, 1 House, due to seats being vacated. And then we've got 6, I believe, Senate elections, if I'm not mistaken, that are due to redistricting.
That's right.
4 of those in DeSoto County, a couple around the Hattiesburg area. So what are your expectations?
Well, I'm excited. We've been talking with a lot of folks on the ground. Voter turnout appears to be low, as we would expect in a special election, but it seems like the excitement on the ground are the Republicans. It seems like the folks are really pouring out. And I think part of that is because what we've seen over the last few weeks is the Democrats nationally have thrown a lot of money into Mississippi. They are literally national Democrats. What I call now the Socialist Party is really trying to buy races. They're trying to buy seats in Mississippi. We see it up in DeSoto County. We see it throughout the state. But what we see in Mississippi also is you can't buy Mississippians, right? I mean, they know that conservative policies are what benefits them, what makes our state better. And so at the end of the day, I think the Republicans will come out on top when we count the votes tonight.
Well, certainly to your point, Mr. Chairman, you got involved in this. Too long ago, we had the big mayor's race in Gulfport. They tried their best to buy that one. Of course, fortunately, Mayor Hugh Keating prevailed. I think he's doing and will do a great job for the citizens of Gulfport, but they smelled blood in the water there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And once we raised the issue, once we shined light on the issue, I think now they're trying to be smarter about how they go about stealing these elections. But you look at the campaign finance reports just over the last few days, and thousands upon thousands of dollars are pouring into our state from out-of-state interest that are trying to funnel these Democratic campaigns and trying to steal these races. And so Republicans are fired up and talking to the base out there. I know our office, the Mississippi Republican Party, we trained over 100 poll watchers in the last couple of weeks, and we've got over 100 in the field today as we're sitting here, make sure that our elections are secure and that everyone's vote counts. And so we are hearing some issues out in the field, but we also have attorneys out there on standby to make sure that the Democrats don't get away with their dirty tricks as usual.
Well, and as you know, our laws are solid that protect the integrity of our elections, but as I was talking about earlier with respect to the way some of these government programs are defrauded, and you know this as a lawyer, when collusion is involved,
right,
it's really, really hard.
It's hard
to identify that and to take action on that. But when you've got folks on the ground observing, you can see if there's any shenanigans going on and prevent it, call attention to it. But that's the risk, is it not?
Yeah.
That you got some unscrupulous poll workers in certain precincts that don't follow the law.
Right. And even more concerning is unscrupulous elected officials who may not.
I didn't know we had any of that.
Yeah, I know, it's a shocker, right? Don't look at those Democratic sheriffs that were just arrested last week.
Gosh,
when you have those who have taken an oath to uphold the law, to uphold our state constitution, and then they use that power to get their friends or their family members or their fellow Democrats into power, into office. That's when it's wrong. And it's wrong. Let me be clear. It's wrong for both sides. It's wrong for anyone to do that.
Amen.
But what we see what I'm seeing on the ground, like we talked about in Gulfport, like we're talking about today, we're seeing instances of where elected officials are trying to stop people from just simply doing their statutory duty of poll watching. And so right now what we're monitoring around the state is to make sure that those who've been trained, who are certified, who have the credentials to be able to be inside the precinct and make sure the voting is occurring lawfully, those individuals, we're going to make sure that they're protected and make sure they stay there so our elections are secure.
Amen. So I feel like we have a solid field of Republicans in these races.
Yes.
You feel good about
Absolutely,
that?
Absolutely, I do.
I do too.
A lot of hard work has gone into these, not just from the individual candidates, but they put together great campaigns. And then even the statewide and the legislative leaders have come alongside them and make sure they had what they needed in order to get the job done.
Do you feel, Mr. Chairman, that when you've got these special elections where you're filling vacated seats, you didn't have primaries, so it's the old jungle primary,
Right.
everybody's on there, and I don't think they're delineated by party.
That's correct.
Right? So, because I looked at my ballot, I was curious about that. That doesn't happen very often in our state where you have that situation. I happen to live in former Senator Horn's district, now the mayor of Jackson, so there's 7, I believe, in that race. Jermaine Cooley, the Republican, who seems like he'd be just a perfect fit in my view. So do you think, I guess that's my question, that maybe without having the D or R next to it, that it's going to come down to even more of a popularity contest, and Jermaine, as a Republican, has a good shot to win this race?
Yeah, it's always tough when we can't put our party identification beside the name, because most Mississippians identify as Republicans. Most of us, our values line up with conservatism. And so obviously it would be much better for the voters if they could simply see who is actually a Democrat and who's actually a Republican. And I think at the end of the day, even in those special elections that are quote-unquote nonpartisan, I think at the end of the day, people are going to be surprised with some of those final tallies of those votes.
I do too. It's important that we retain our supermajority
Absolutely.
in the Senate, the state Senate. There are some situations where that does come into play, right?
For sure. And
it's important from legislative perspective. So, but I overall feel good about that. I think
it's a good day.
You guys have done well in developing a good slate of candidates. Of course, you got some incumbents that you already knew,
right,
that are running, and they all appear to be in good shape. I texted all of them last night just with well wishes, and they all seem to feel pretty good, which they should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will give credit where credit's due. Our executive director at the party, Rance Bilbo, has done an incredible job out there recruiting candidates, lining up candidates, making sure they have all the resources that we have available at the party to these candidates so that we can get them elected.
Yeah, absolutely. So we shall certainly see. Let's pivot a bit to the national scene. We have some big-time races going on there with New York City, population of 8 million, has got a very contentious mayor's race. I don't know that I ever imagined that we'd see someone who proudly, ascribes themselves as a Democrat socialist that seems to be poised to win that seat, win the mayor's office.
It's even scarier than that. You see the entire I see this race in New York City as the culmination of years and years of the socialist wing of the Democratic Party taking over.
Yeah.
They have finally taken over. This is the Bernie Sanders, Mondami Democratic Party now. Because not only are those the two leaders of the party now, but now you have all the other leaders, like the House Minority Leader,
Hakeem Jeffries, endorsing
him. Yes, you have all these national Democratic leaders, whether it's the governor of New York, others who are saying this is our party, this is our candidate, this is who we are. And I can't imagine anything more opposite of Americanism and what this country stands for than socialism and everything that Mondami stands for. So it's a heartbreaking day for New York City if it comes to fruition like the polls seem to indicate it may. But at the end of the day, again, it continues to show the slide of the Democratic Party. Whereas, back in the good old Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill days, we fought, people fought Democrats, Republicans, but they also had a beer together. They also agreed on things. Those days are over. Sadly.
Man, they are.
They are absolutely over, especially when you have a party who now espouses taking things from one group of people and giving it to another group of people, government being bigger, taxes being higher, freedom being less. I mean, this is just not the way that we founded this country.
Unbelievable. Well, we'll certainly wait and see what happens. You can hang around.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got Mike Hurst. He's chairman of the GOP. We want to get to these two big races for governor in the states of Virginia and New Jersey, and then just also get your thoughts and any insight you have from the Republican Party on what I believe is going to be the start of problems for the Democrat Party should Zoran Mondami get elected in New York City. So we got Mike Hurst, Mississippi's Republican chairman, in the Element Wealth studio. We're coming right back. Mississippi Republican Party Chairman Mike Hurst is our guest in the studio. So, all right, so we got these two big governor's races, one in Virginia, one in New Jersey. Honestly, I think they're too close to call at this point. But, again, I feel like we've got very solid Republican candidates that align with the Republican agenda and principles. Jack Ciattarelli, I think I said that right, is, of course, his third attempt at the governor's office in New Jersey. The president recently endorsed him, and I've seen him speak many times. He makes a lot of sense to me, but, of course, he's being opposed by and contending with Mikey Sherrill. And I went back, Mike, and just listened to some various interviews with her. She never says the same thing in agreement twice. They're just all over the place, depending on the interviewer and I think the audience. New Jersey's in play, though, for the Republicans.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are your folks telling you?
Well, what my folks are telling me is, the RNC chairman, Joe Gruters, and the co-chair, Casey Crosby, they've both been on the ground up in New Jersey for the last at least week, I know.
Yeah.
And they said the excitement, the enthusiasm for Jack is just top. I mean, it's over the top. It's absolutely over the top. So, we probably think of New Jersey as just this Democratic stronghold, a Democratic bastion, but it wasn't that long ago that Chris Christie was governor of New Jersey. But you're exactly right that the current Democratic candidate, right now, New Jersey has one of the highest property tax burdens in the nation. Yeah,
they in New York, California vie for that spot. Illinois,
49 of 50 in overall tax competitiveness. You're talking about some of the highest taxes around the country. And when the Democratic candidate was pressed on what she was going to do differently from the current Democratic governor, she said she wasn't going to do anything different. She's going to carry on what he's been doing. And when they pressed her on lowering the tax burden on New Jersey citizens, she said, I am not going to commit to anything. How in the world? I mean,
why would you vote for that?
Yeah,
right?
How can you vote for that? I mean, I just can't comprehend the Democrats' message, their strategy of saying, we want higher taxes, we want to redistribute the wealth, and we don't want you to have as many freedoms that you're entitled to under our Constitution.
Right.
To me, that just, it seems almost anti-American.
Yeah. I totally agree. So, I was thinking when I was working up there back in the 90s, Christine Todd Whitman was actually a very good governor, Republican governor. Yep. So it's not out of the question that they could elect a Republican, as you point out here.
And in Virginia, I mean, we have Winsome Sears, a military veteran, very strong pro-Second Amendment gun owner, very impressive, and just the crazy show that Virginia has become with not only the terrible Democratic gubernatorial candidate they have, but the even worse AG candidate they have for the Democrats who threatened, not threatened, but has wished upon, death and violence to other political opponents. I mean, this is the type of stuff that this is why we're where we're at. Yeah. With this political violence happening, with people not being able to just talk about differences, to be able to agree to disagree. But when you start, talking about someone's life and you start talking about their children's lives, that's absolutely unacceptable. You should not even be on the ballot if you're going to do that kind of stuff. So, totally. Winsome Sears is looking good right now. I'm excited for her candidacy. When she was elected with Youngkin, that was a dynamic duo in Virginia, and I hope she's able to continue what Youngkin's done over the last 4 years. Yeah, I agree. I think he appealed at a point to voters when the Democrats were just jumping the shark, and in particular in Virginia, which seemed to be ground zero for all the crazy woke stuff happening, in particular in our schools. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The Virginia, had been trending blue with all of the Democrats in Northern Virginia out of the D.C. suburbs. But when Youngkin ran, the thing that jumps out to me was the Democratic gubernatorial candidate, Terry McAuliffe, longtime Democrat. But then when he was asked the question, about schools and children, and his response was, parents should not be dictating what their the schools do. Schools and teachers should be dictating what is done to their children. That is absolutely insane, and that's one of the biggest points that sets apart Democrats from Republicans. We believe that parents know what are best for their children when it comes to their education.
100%.
Not schools, not teachers, not administrators, not government.
Totally right, yes. In fact, to that end, I sure would like to see us enact a Parents' Bill of Rights here in the state of Mississippi.
Yep.
We've stopped short of that
It seems
somewhat.
like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine any parent disagreeing with their having the right for the decisions of the upbringing and the rearing of their children.
Totally.
And that, to me, first and foremost, should be in education.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that where you're entrusting the government, but you don't want the government doesn't become the parents of the child, and that's effectively what the Democrats want to do.
Right. And think about this, Gerard. This is one of the few areas of our lives as free, red-blooded Americans that the government is mandating. The government is telling you as a parent, you have to send your child to a school, or you have to do homeschooling, or you have to do some other type of schooling. You have to get government approval that you have done these things so that your child can be educated. That's one of the few things the government mandates and requires, and yet we're just going to turn over that responsibility and that authority to the government? I don't think so.
Well, and to your point, I can't remember if it's Sparrenberger or Sherrill, one of those Democrat candidates in those two states, that in an interview, I believe last week, said that, yes, we should, in fact, teach even our very young elementary students all this crazy gender ideology stuff.
Gosh.
They need to be exposed to it. No, they don't.
Gosh, that's horrible.
We don't have to expose them to that.
Yeah.
On the record saying that, and hopefully voters will consider that. I don't think even most Democrats believe
I agree.
that makes sense. That's, in fact, what they leaned so hard into in the presidential election.
Right. Why can't we just get back to teaching them numbers and teaching them words and teaching them history and teaching them things that we have traditionally taught them in schools rather than going off on the ideologies?
I don't know. It's inappropriate. It's like they feel like they have a captive audience in children who can't challenge them.
Absolutely.
And that's being abusive. You're abusing your power.
And frankly, a captive audience because the parents can't do much either.
That's right.
Yeah.
So hopefully the folks will come to their senses and know that would not be in their best interest, because I think that is wildly unpopular, that idea, and hopefully that won't happen. Now, I said before we went to the break in this segment that the Democrats' problems may just be starting based on what happens, right? So if Mondami gets elected in New York City, how are they going to deal with that?
I think there's going to be a mass exodus of not only successful businessmen and women and other law-abiding citizens from New York City. I think you're going to have the mass exodus of the financial industry. I think it's going to be a hollowing out of our nation's largest city, and it's going to be a shell of its former self. I hate to see it. I hate to say that, but at the same time, these other states, led by Republican governors who have opened up their states, like ours, like Texas, like Florida, to more development, more opportunities, more of you keeping the money that you earn. Those are going to be safe havens for businesses and people who want to live free.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to benefit from this socialism that has really taken over the Democratic Party.
So I wanted to share this with you. I'm not sure if you've seen this. There's a Democrat state rep in Illinois that's opening the door to tax Americans on their retirements, their 401k, and their pensions plan. They also want to tax your streaming services, Netflix, Hulu. They want an amusement tax, a tax on movie tickets when you go to the movies, more sales tax, sporting events tax, concert tax, going to Great America theme park tax, $2 billion more for mass transit while buses are running empty. I got a video here where he talks about that, and that was reported. This is what the Democrats stand for. That's the I know this is Illinois, but this is what Democrats stand for.
Yeah, and they've never seen a tax they didn't like.
Exactly.
I mean, what Reagan used to say something: if it moves, tax it.
So if it moves, tax it. If it does something, subsidize it. If it runs out of gas, subsidize it, or something like that.
That beautifully sums up the Democratic philosophy, and it's all about right now, especially with the government being shut down. We just talked about it off the air. The Democrats voting for the 14th time for poor Americans not to have
Voted it
SNAP
down.
benefits, for those TSA workers and our law enforcement not being paid. I mean, I talked to some of my old colleagues in the U.S. Attorney's Office that have not been paid in a month. And they're continuing to do their job. They're continuing to protect the American people. But at the same time, Democrats have to just get back on board. I mean, they keep blaming this on us, but this is the Schumer shutdown.
Before you go, I'll just make this point real quick. If those TSA people, law enforcement people you talked about aren't getting paid, if they were illegal, Schumer would be handing checks out to
Yeah,
them.
that's right.
Mike Hurst, chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, has been our guest. Always good to see you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
Gerard.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
you.
in. We're coming right back.